part of this discussion that we've been having about finances and, managing finances and just, the appropriate way to look at the means, the resource that is money, has to do with some of the cultural, historical, and, maybe even traditional elements that play into how different people look at money. There are certain groups of people that tend to be really good with money, and then there's some that seem to naturally or unnaturally have challenges surrounding acquiring and developing and keeping wealth. So to have a conversation that navigates around like what cultural influences come into that, that's something that Colby and I talked about a good bit. So Colby, frame a little bit about what influences some behaviors based on culture.
Before we get into it, I'd like the viewers to kind of know a little bit about where I'm coming from, because that's going to frame how we talk about this. I, had the good fortune of being born in West Africa. My parents are Baha'is, and they had moved to a country called Benin and lived there for 18 years. And I was born there at home, up in a rural area, and lived there for the first 10 years of my life. So that really was an amazing experience and a transformative experience for me, because I was immersed in the West African culture from a very early age. I would go out with my father to different communities, and we had lots of friends all over the country that we would visit. At the time, being 10 years old, I didn't, make all these processes about these different cultures that I'm experiencing, but I just grew up in this very, very diverse life. And now, 30 years on, I'm able to look back upon those experiences, as well as the experiences I've had in the United States and in college during my studies, and begin to put a life experience with kind of a theoretical model. So one of the things you brought up was, how do different cultures shape the way that we are approaching finances? So I went to school and I was studying international development studies, which had a lot of sociology in it. So we studied the work of Max Weber, who had a theory to explain why Western Europe and the United States had kind of this propulsion in economic and social development that he called the Protestant work ethic theory. And basically, what that suggested was there was a drive inherent in the Protestant community that motivated individuals from that community to work extremely hard, because the success of that work would be a reflection of their ability to go to heaven. So their ability to kind of attract grace into their life. So essentially, when you had the Puritans that came over to the United States, they brought that ethic with them. And we can still see that ethic in a lot of communities in the United States that are more conservative socially, but that are tight-knit and work extremely hard to provide for themselves and for their families and for their communities. That's a theory that can help us understand why it is that the Anglo-Saxons in the United States acquired so much wealth, but also why it is that we tend to have more of an individualistic and materialistic perspective on life and how we want to live our lives, because the accumulation of wealth is something that has been inherent within the culture for centuries now. To contrast that with a more community-oriented perspective on wealth, which is something that we would see in a lot of African communities, which is one where all of the community has a shared resource. And if they're cultivating maize or rice or potatoes, and they're going to be going through a dry spell, then they're going to have to rely on each other. No one person can accumulate so much corn that they could get through a drought on their own. So therefore, it's only by working together that the community would be able to get through the drought. Bringing African slaves over to the United States who had this mentality of community spirit, and then through slavery and segregation, divorcing them from the economic processes of the United States, making them a means of production rather than entrepreneurs or equal partners within the economic system, further kind of split and further differentiated the African American population from the Anglo-Saxon population. So, of course here we're generalizing, and there's plenty of, mixing and different people who are approaching the way that they are making decisions about how they're going to make money that are being influenced across all of these spectrums. But I do think it's kind of interesting to look at these macro theories and to look at how it is they're shaping the lives that we're living today, the institutions that are governing the way that we make economic decisions today.
Which are not visible to the eye, but which are rapid enough to be sensed by the ear.